This podcast was supposed to be all about Lawrence Frank, but no, Mark Cuban has taken to Twitter and now he is the headliner here. I've got to talk about him first because he's fallen off a cliff. Mark Cuban has gone so far that he can't be taken seriously anymore. So here we have the tweet, the reply to Pablo's fifth podcast episode, counting the recording with Mark. Mark writes, Pablo, you have become a great podcast entertainer, great acting skills, but in terms of getting to the real, not so much. Two, all of what you said is meaningless in all caps if KL2 didn't actually get paid. You once again talk about the first two payments, but never, not once, and it goes on. I'll just open it up for effect. So he has this long tweet, and it's he's so far gone that I don't even really I'm not really even taking it seriously. I'm not reading through it because to me what it looks like is obviously Mark Cuban has to defend Steve Ballmer for some reason. Now he says it's just because I think he wants to prove everyone wrong and he doesn't care if I don't know some type of contrarian hill he's on, but it looks like the volume approach to me. So if I throw out enough garbage and I just keep tweeting, maybe it will confuse people and they'll get lost in these side points. What we don't have a lot of is Mark Cuban actually addressing the main points that all directly or indirectly point to salary cap circumvention. That's what we don't have. What we do have is a lot of garbage and a lot of volume coming from Mark Cuban. And what the other part of this for me is not just that Mark Cuban has decided that he's the ultimate Steve Ballmer, but it's also like what comes of this for Mark Cuban once we have the conclusion with the Clipper scandal. And let's play a clip now. Let's play a clip. This one's an interesting clip. This is from the Mark Cuban Pablo Torre podcast that they recorded on it was a few weeks ago.
Rare that a Twitter interaction results in something like hopefully dialogue.
Yeah, I'm good for dialogue. I don't have a dog in the hunt, right? From a Mavs perspective, I hope they're cheating, right? I mean, there's no reason for me to try to defend Steve Ballmer.
There's no reason at all. That I can't get over how that just sounds funny to me. The way he says it sounds like it's fake. And then he starts out by saying he doesn't have, is it a dog in the hunt or a dog in the race? And I hope they're cheating. And then, other than the time he reemphasizes that line, all he does and all he has done since is defend Steve Ballmer. It's a lot of defense for someone who doesn't care whether or not, and actually hopes the Mavs side of him hopes that they're cheating. So I don't know what to like. I saw Mark's tweet. I read a part of it, and then I just saw that it was going downhill, and I didn't even continue. Maybe at some point I look into his tweets and see what he's saying. But I've already this episode that's on the screen with me. I broke this down. I broke down every one of Mark's arguments that were in favor of Steve Ballmer. I analyzed everything, and then last night I was preparing to have a Clippers defense. So I was going to have a video all about my defense as the Clippers, and the title was going to be "What if the Clippers didn't do it?" And then Pablo publishes this new video, and it really doesn't leave much of a defense. So I don't know what to make. Like with Mark Cuban, I can't take him seriously anymore. He's lost that, and that's something that's very significant. Also noticed that he was at 9 million followers, and he is no longer. He's at 8.9. So I think a lot of other people aren't taking him seriously anymore either. Let's see here. Let's see. So this is an interesting tweet. Question me all you want. I ask questions. I expect to be questioned. As you may have noticed, I answered quite a few and kept dialogues with several. So this person wrote, "Don't you guys get it? Mark here is the only one who could possibly decipher all this business dealings correctly. Best not to question him and just accept that the billionaire got conned." I mean, that's what really Mark is getting at is like, hey, I know exactly what's going on here, and he hasn't. Then if you do, then go ahead and address Pablo directly. I think this podcast sounds imminent. So it will be really interesting to see if he flies all the way out there for a guy. Remember, he doesn't have a dog in the hunt. He hopes the Clippers are cheating, the Mavs side of him, but he's willing to fly out there. And this has become its own side story. He just won't let up on this. And this is one where you've already lost, right? Like the NBA can come out with whatever they come out with, and they can tell us that they found no evidence that the Clippers circumvented the salary cap, but it's over. And I would be one part of my defense was going to be like, look, you have the mob mentality. Think of the Simpsons episodes where you see the mob gathering. You might even see pitchforks, and you have this idea that comes forth, and it's not well thought out. Okay, yeah, maybe right there. Maybe there's a mob mentality, but I want anybody who disagrees with that. The mob mentality here is right. And I want anybody who disagrees with that to go ahead and undermine the points that Pablo has made. And the reason I say that is because I've actually tried to do it, and it's difficult. How do you go against what Pablo's saying? The best way that the Clippers can defend is to have a stonewall. And if I haven't said it yet, the stonewall being that Kawhi's deal is Kawhi's deal. We don't have anything to do with it because we shouldn't know. We shouldn't, under the salary cap, know anything about that. We made the introduction and that's it. From the Clippers side, sunk cost fallacy. Hey, look, we believed in them. We made personal relationships with them. We wanted them to turn the corner. Obviously, we have a lot at stake with the Clippers, the sponsorship, the jersey patch, and so forth. So we wanted to see them succeed, and that is why you saw Steve Ballmer continually pour in money. You saw us buy more carbon credits. You saw Dennis Wong invest $2 million. That's what was happening. That's really, at this point, you don't even want to get specific if you're the Clippers. Just, we're taking this wall. Here's the general wall. And now the NBA works around it. And then hopefully, if you're the Clippers, then the NBA just goes, okay, well, there's not enough here. We dislike what you've done, but there's still not enough here for us to decide that, yes, you have circumvented the salary cap. So let's go up with Mark Cuban. There was one other tweet that I thought thought was interesting. Let's see. So here we have the just email me. So it does look like that podcast is going to happen. So someone wrote, "You are missing the point. We live in a society where truth, unfortunately, doesn't matter as much as public opinion." And then Mark Cuban retweeted that and wrote, "Why would I care about public opinion? When have I ever? I love to take on challenges where everyone says I'm wrong, whether I'm as an entrepreneur, whether being accused by the government or in Twitter battles. The more people say I'm wrong, the more I'll try to prove that popular opinion is wrong. Show me the evidence I'm wrong, and I'll take the L." Pablo has only has circumstantial evidence and completely ignores all of the external information as if it doesn't matter. It's far more important. Yeah, so Pablo has shown the evidence, and I think there's some direct evidence here, right? No, it's not. It wouldn't be direct evidence, but it's there's not. What Mark is doing here is he's holding Pablo to the standard of, hey, where's your video where Steve Ballmer says we're circumventing the salary cap now and we need you to pay Kawhi, but we'll pay you the money, right? That's not going to happen. So this gets to, if this isn't salary cap circumvention, then what is it? What would it be? What exactly would be going on here? And if this isn't salary cap circumvention, when would there ever be salary cap circumvention? Also, let's just pretend that this is as innocent as possible. Okay, then you're going to have to work around the fact that you've done enough things to where it looks bad enough to where it cannot be rationally explained. And I think that's the phrase used in the CBA. And you are still going to be found to have circumvented the salary cap because it looks so much like you did. Remember, this is the NBA's court. This is the NBA's rules. This is not a civil matter. This is up to the NBA. So there's a lot of pressure right now on the NBA. But yeah, it's like how I think the other thing people that I find personally disagreeable with Mark's approach is that he won't cede anything. So I think that's another tactic here in play, is the extreme approach. It's even in the recording with Pablo, Mark says, well, no, it's the exact opposite. And so really trying to make downplay Pablo, downplay his evidence, downplay all of the work he's done. What do you call him? A great entertainer and storyteller. Let's look at that one more time, because the wording he even uses is interesting. Let's see here. Pablo, you have become a great podcast entertainer, great acting skills, but in terms of getting to the real, not so much. So we know what's going to happen on this podcast. Mark is going to prepare. He's going to try and come up with random things. He's going to say that Pablo is only looking at this through the lens of what Pablo wants, right? What Pablo will only see what he wants to see to carry forward this story that he's telling. But he's using evidence to carry this story forward. And one reason I de-emphasize the employee statements and the employee text is because you can come up with a story as to why the employees would say this. You can discount that, but what can't be discounted is when we look at the actual documents. When we look at when we look at Kawhi Leonard's contract, right? It's a no-show contract, and then so this leads me to the other point I wanted to get to was Clippers Media Day, which was horrible. It went horrible for them, and they had all this time to prepare. And I've now tabbed over. I've gone off Mark Cuban's Twitter, and we're on Joey Lynn's Twitter. I will include a link to his Twitter because he's a highly relevant Twitter account. He's I think he's the Clippers beat reporter, one of the beat reporters. And so he has some clips from Media Day. One of the clips is of Lawrence Frank being asked some questions. Another side part of this, though, is Ramona Shelburne is the one who is asking the questions. And it's almost as if there's this tough approach where, oh, I'm the tough journalist. What was funny was in the Hoop Collective podcast, directly after the interview that Ramona had with Steve Ballmer, she thought, I think in her words, she referred to herself as grilling Steve Ballmer. And here I think we have some faux grilling of here Lawrence Frank and then later Kawhi Leonard. So let's actually play this clip because Lawrence Frank, I can't believe that they let him walk out of the office and this was going to be what he came up with. So let's just go ahead and play the clip. I'm going to turn up the volume because it's volume's off here.
Has Dennis Robertson, Kawhi's uncle, ever asked for any extra benefits that wouldn't be allowable under the NBA salary cap directly to you? There's no lot coming out of his asks.
Yeah, look, Dennis knows the rules, Kawhi knows the rules, Mitch Franco knows the rules, and we know the rules.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes, we all know the rules.
What is this? This is the best you've come up with? You have Lawrence Frank, and he goes with the Steve Ballmer line, which was at the time I thought it was a decent play on him to not answer the question but to seemingly address it because we know the rules but you don't actually answer it. And then here you have Lawrence Frank use that same, obviously this was a part of the Clippers talked about this, and we're going to say that everyone knows the rules to get around this, but they didn't get around anything. You might as well have just said that they did ask and we turned them down. You might as well have just said that because that's what the implication is here when you say that everyone knows the rules. Or no, that's not the implication here. That the implication, what is taken away from this is that he did ask for benefits. So you might as well have just admitted that, yes, he did ask for benefits. And as I was saying, we turned him down. But no, Lawrence Frank plays like a game with this, and which is a layup question from Ramona Shelburne. And now he says, she asked, is that a yes or a no? And then he writes, yes, we know all the rules. So you didn't answer the question. And I don't know, right now we're limited to clips, or at least that's all I've come across. I don't know why Ramona is the one, why aren't there other reporters asking questions? That's a question I have. Where are the other reporters? Is no one else going to ask about this? Maybe they have, but we're only right now. We only have these sliced clips, or I only have access to them. But this is the Clippers. I think Joey Lynn is the Clippers beat reporter. So we have this, and then we also have another horrible showing from Lawrence Frank. It really is like he just walked out of his office and he was like, "No, I'm not preparing for this. I'm just going to go out there and I'll just say whatever comes to my mind." But here we have a pre-written statement that he reads, and it comes off horribly. It comes across as a PR statement that doesn't really address anything. I'm not going to play the whole clip, but let's play a part of it.
And we expect the investigation will show that these allegations are wrong. I'm hurt for Steve. He's one of the best people and most honorable people I've ever met. But out of respect to the NBA investigation, I can't. But out of respect to the NBA investigation, I can't.
So he's saying, out of respect for the NBA investigation, I'm assuming I can't answer any questions. So I think this is what he started off with. What is it? How is it being disrespectful if you answer questions about the investigation? Like, why can't you, if you want to make a statement, why can't you go ahead and make a statement? So disingenuous there.
What I can do is answer what I'm able to share. I will say this. We are glad there's an investigation.
Are you really glad there's an investigation?
And we welcome it. We appreciate that there'll be a clear-eyed look at these allegations. And we're eager for the truth to come out.
Are you eager for the truth to come out? This is I don't know. Like, he could have just said, "Look, we've already made statements. We're going to focus on basketball." That would have been my approach. But now we have this. He had a follow-up question. Now we have this from Lawrence Frank. If it's not going to help anything, just keep it out. But it was. I thought this was an especially bad showing by Lawrence Frank. But we also have Kawhi Leonard, who did actually take some questions. Surprising to me. I thought he would just focus on basketball. But let's listen to a piece of what Kawhi says.
Services for them. The endorsement deal that you had with the company that's been talked aspiration, and did you perform any services for them?
When you say understand, what do you mean?
Like the contract you signed, and how much money you were to receive, what you were supposed to perform for those services.
I understand the full contract and the services that I had to do. Like I said, I don't deal with the conspiracies or the clickbait analysts or journalism that's going on. So that's what it is.
Well, I think the allegation was that you didn't perform any services for them. Is that accurate, or did you?
I don't think it's accurate, but it's old. This is all new to you guys. The company.
So Kawhi stating it's old, but of course he hasn't addressed it yet. Looking to move past something that has not yet been addressed. This has long been a tactic, and we see it in play here. It's old, but yet not really addressed it. He did say he doesn't think it's accurate. And then he said he doesn't deal with conspiracies. Well, do you deal with the conspiracy of your contract with your signature, where we can see the terms of the contract not requiring you to actually do anything other than remain a Clipper? So we have this by Kawhi, and in a way, it doesn't look like the Clippers were all that coordinated. Maybe they were, but it didn't come across like they were sharp with this, which is surprising because now you've had how many? Are we at nearly a month since this story broke? And I don't know, Pablo Torre. And then on top of this all, of course, we have Pablo Torre, and I don't know what time he released it. I think so. Previously, he has released podcasts early in the morning. I think I saw 5 a.m. I don't know when this one exactly was released, but in the afternoon, I went to the NBA subreddit, started looking, and then just saw that it was not. Everything was still falling to pieces for the Clippers, and it all started off with Pablo Torre releasing another podcast where we have a donation being made by Steve Ballmer to was it the Golden State Opportunity Fund, something along those lines, and that was, of course, now we found out that that charity is connected to Joe Sandberg, and then so it's yet another, something else that needs to be explained. And let's go ahead and end this podcast with this. Pablo Torre, I don't think so. He's tweeted so much. I'm hesitant to look here, but let's actually go and search for Pablo Torre. And there is one, or maybe he's done it on multiple times, but there have been a few tweets where he puts the spool of thread. I don't even know what to call it, or yarn, and then he ends his tweet with that. And I'm just scrolling down now because I'd like to find it. I'm probably not going to find it in time, but I knew, like, I still remember looking at one of his tweets and thinking, like, what does he have next for us? And this was a good one. I don't think I mean, he said there's at least going to be a part 6, but because he hasn't finalized anything, I think there will be a concluding podcast when he's done. But he's got, the other part of this where he's so in control of everything right now. The other part of this is that he can continue on. He doesn't have to let the NBA know. They don't know when he finishes, and that's the other part with Mark Cuban. That you don't know what else he has left. We saw Mark Cuban have a tweet that was it really looked like a frustrated tweet where he was like, well, why don't you just share everything all at once? And it's like, he's not going to do that. Right now he's out in front. He's got a major story. Of course, this isn't his job isn't specifically to find things wrong with the NBA. It just so happened that he did. And now he's got this story. He's got, the journalism, the real journalism, which is such a nice stark change of pace from what we're accustomed to. I'm not going to find this. I'll have to come up with it later. But he's actually reporting on something that he found. It's investigative journalism, and how he found it, I'm sure I would have to suspect someone tipped him off. But regardless, he's put in all of the work, months of research, and he has the NBA. He has the Clippers. The evidence that he has is damning. And no matter how much volume Mark throws out there, how much he tries to confuse the issue with circular arguments and pointing in different directions, it's there. It's there, and there's no getting around it. And if I'm the Clippers, there's a video I published that was soon after Pablo's, not too long after this came out. Just say you broke the rules. And now they've gone so far the other way that no matter what happens, the NBA can conclude however they want to conclude, but no matter what happens, they look so bad because they keep going further and further, and more people talk about it. It's now not just Steve Ballmer. We've also got Lawrence Frank. We've got Kawhi Leonard. We've got all of the NBA chess pieces who originally stated that this wasn't as big of a deal and it's a nice try, but the evidence isn't there. And Adam Silver has spoken on it. Adam Silver has had to backtrack on what he said. At this point, like, I don't know why you keep going further. It's at this point, the evidence is there and you haven't had a comeback for it yet. So there's no Hail Mary out there that's going to save you. I'm guessing the Hail Mary, the reason for the confidence, the reason that we can see Mark Cuban and others brush off the evidence. If there is a Hail Mary, it's one that doesn't really count. It's the NBA coming to the conclusion, well, there was no direct evidence, but that's not the standard here. When we look at the CBA, it's not that this is not a criminal trial where we have to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. But even if it was, it has been proven. Like, in my view, this has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and this is outside of the pitchforking. This is outside of just really entertaining podcasts. There have been, you can point to some things where it's like, okay, Pablo's approach on this is not as strong, or like he's focusing on the wrong place. There was an example I had. Oh yeah, Pablo looking through the lens of like, I have this idea that you have circumvented the salary cap, and now I'm only going to look in that direction. So looking at it from that very narrow lens, but there are fundamental problems with any defense. And so if this were a legal matter, you'd be looking for a settlement. But as it stands, it's as Pablo called it one podcast. This is podcast court, and I don't see any way around this for the Clippers.